What's going on, everyone?
Hi, guys.
Welcome back to the Castro Files.
It's been a little while.
It has been quite a while.
Yeah.
But we're ready to tell you some creepy stories, some horrific stories, some
AI-generated stories.
Because technology's changed.
In the year that
Last
year that we haven't done one.
To the fact where I actually went back to the old school mics, the original, the OG mics on there.
They're so big.
They are, because we've got multiple sets. We've got all sorts of stuff since you guys last tuned into us. So with that, go out and subscribe to the Castro Files channel on YouTube. We've got a Facebook and an Instagram channel for the Castro Files. You can also follow us on everywhere else, right?
Right.
But you can check us out on The Bar Is Open. We also post everything out there. So we're going to get into some pretty creepy stories tonight. It is the spooky season.
It is the spooky season.
So with that, grab a drink, hang out, and we're going to jump into some stories.
Let's do it.
First one, we figured because I think it's been over a year since we've done a Castro Files.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I think maybe I did one just somewhere here and there.
Okay.
But you've got Grok, you've got, what's the other one? ChatGPT. You've got all of these different AI bots and things or whatever.
And you use one and I use the other. So
right. So what I did this time is I went out the other night.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's create the creepiest story I could find. And it's not, you can get much creepier or darker, I'm sure.
Yeah, this one's just eerie.
It's just eerie.
Spooky.
So if you don't know what a prompt is, it's what you put into ChatGPT to tell it to do something, like to an AI engine to tell it to do
basically
something.
instructions.
Instructions, right.
Yeah, the guidance and instructions.
So this is what I put into Grok, and Grok is X's,
AI.
Twitter's AI, right? So I said, create the scariest story about camping you can imagine. There are no rules and no one needs to survive. The setting is some young adults, male and female, go to a friend's cabin for a fun getaway to an ultra nice house in the mountains. There's a lake with a dock and a fun water slide. They've been planning the trip for weeks to get away from their busy city life. They get picked off one at a time under weird circumstances. Be detailed about the way they die. The killer is only revealed at the end. Surprise us with the ending. Is it a random person or one of the group who planned this all along? And Beth's going to read us the story.
I am going to read you the story.
All right, so buckle up. Let's go.
All right. Friends go to the cabin. The group of 6 friends had been buzzing about this trip for weeks, living in the grind of the city. Endless meetings for Alex the banker, late night shifts for Jordan the nurse, startup chaos for Taylor the tech whiz, freelance deadlines for Riley the graphic designer, corporate ladder for Casey the salesman, and barista burnout for Sam the aspiring writer. They all craved escape. It was Casey's idea. He owned the cabin, inherited it from his late uncle, tucked high in the Rocky Mountains, ultra luxe, he promised. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a pristine alpine lake, a private dock with a towering water slide that plunged straight into the crystal clear water, and a hot tub on the deck, fully stocked bar, no neighbors for miles. Just them, beer, bonfires, and forgetting the world. They piled into 2 SUVs and drove up the winding road, laughing over playlists and inside jokes. By dusk on Friday, they arrived. The cabin was a modern marvel. Sleek wood beams, plush leather couches, a massive stone fireplace. The lake shimmered under the setting sun, the water slide, a 30-foot spiral of polished metal, gleaming like a promise of thrills. They unpacked, cracked open drinks, and dove into the weekend. The first night was pure bliss. Grilling steaks, skinny dipping in the lake, sliding down the slide with whoops and slashes. No cell service, but who cared? They were free. Saturday morning started lazy. Coffee on the deck, pancakes sizzling. Alex and Jordan, the couple of the group, snuck off for a hike, while Taylor and Riley challenged each other to cannonballs off the deck. Typical boys, right?
Yeah.
Casey manned the grill again, and Sam lounged with a book. But as the sun climbed, things felt off. The air was too still, the forest encircling the property too dense, swallowing sounds. Birds didn't sing, even the lake ripples seemed muted. The first weirdness hit that afternoon. Taylor, always the daredevil, climbed the water slide for the umpteenth time. "Watch this flip," he yelled, launching down the twisty slide. The group cheered from the dock until Taylor hit the water wrong, or at least that's what it looked like at first. A splash, then silence. Bubbles rose, but Tyler did not surface. Riley dove in, searching frantically, but the lake was deeper than it seemed, a cold abyss dropping off sharply from the shore. They dragged Taylor up minutes later, blue-lipped and still. No one could figure it out. Taylor was a strong swimmer. But there, tangled in his limbs, was a mass of slimy lake weeds, thick rope-like strands that had wrapped around his neck and ankles like light living snares. The coroner would later call it a freak entanglement, but the group saw the marks, deep purple bruising as if the weeds had pulled tight on purpose. Panic set in. They radioed for help. Casey had an old emergency beacon, but a storm was rolling in, delaying rescue till morning. "We stayed put," Casey said, his voice steady. "It was an accident." They tried to huddle inside, but grief fractured the vibe. Sam, the quiet one, slipped out to the dock that evening, saying she needed air. The others heard her scream, a short, guttural yelp cut off mid-breath. When they rushed outside with flashlights, she was gone. Footprints led to the water's edge that vanished. Jordan spotted something bobbing near the water, Sam's shoe floating lazily. They searched the shallows, but found her body hours later. Washed up on the rocky shore, her face was a horror. Eyes bulging, mouth frozen in a silent wail, skin pallid and pruned as if she'd been underwater for days, not minutes. But the worst was her throat, slashed open in jagged lines like claws had raked through it. Fish? No, the wounds were too precise.
Piranha.
Too deep. Blood mixed with water trailed back to the dock, but there were no tracks besides her. "Something's in the lake," Riley whispered, trembling. Alex tried to rationalize. Maybe a propeller from an old boat? But they all knew the lake was untouched with no boats for years. Night fell heavy, the storm lashing against the windows. They barricaded doors, lit every light. Casey suggested they stick together in the living room, but Riley couldn't sleep. She wandered to the kitchen for water around 2 a.m., the others dozing fitfully. A crash echoed, glass shattering. They bolted up to find the back door ajar, wind howling in. Riley was sprawled on the floor, her head twisted at an unnatural angle, neck snapped clean. But how? The counter was smeared with blood, and embedded in her skull was a shard from the broken window. Driven in with such force it had punctured through to her eye. No one had heard an intruder. The door was locked from the inside. Jordan had vomited, seeing the way Riley's fingers were clenched as she'd been grabbing at something invisible that yanked her backwards into the glass. "It's like the cabin did it," Alex muttered, his voice cracking. By dawn, paranoia gripped them. Only Alex, Jordan, and Casey left. The storm cleared, but the beacon's response was static. Help delayed another day due to mudslides on the road. They decided to hike out, but first, a quick scout of the perimeter. Why? Just get the hell out. Jordan volunteered to check the dock one last time. Alex and Casey waited inside, but minutes stretched. Then a splash. They ran out to see Jordan flailing in the lake far from shore. "Help," she gasped, but her strokes were weakening. Alex dove in, swimming hard, but by the time he reached her, she was sinking. He pulled her up, dragging her to the dock. Too late. Her body was riddled with puncture wounds, dozens of them, like she'd been stabbed repeatedly. Blood clotted the lake around her, and in her hand clutched tight was a rusted nail from the dock's underside. But the wounds weren't from nails. They were irregular, bubbling, as if something had burrowed into her flesh from the below. Alex screamed, pounding the wood. "What the fuck is happening?" Back inside, Alex confronted Casey, the last two standing. "This is your place. You know something." Casey shook his head pale. "I swear, man, my uncle, he died here too. Heart attack, they said." But doubt festered. They armed themselves with kitchen knives, a fire poker, and waited for the night. Alex took first watch, but exhaustion won. He woke to silence. Casey gone. Searching the cabin, he found the basement door ajar, a room Casey had said was for storage. Down the stairs, flickering light from a lantern. There, amid dusty boxes, was Casey, hanging from a beam, a noose around his neck.
Shit.
His face was purple, his eyes vacant, a note pinned to his shirt. I'm sorry, it was me. But wait, no, that didn't fix. Alec approached, heart pounding, only to feel a starred pain in his back, a blade twisting deep. He crumpled, vision blurring as a figure stepped out from the shadows. Not Casey. Casey was dead, truly hanged, but the note was a plant. The killer lowered their hood. Sam. Alive, unscathed, her earlier death a ruse with fake blood and a hidden swim to shore. She orchestrated it all. The weeds rigged with wires to strangle Tyler, the claw-like glove to slash her own staged throat, marks being hidden, tripwire in the kitchen to snap Riley's neck against the window where she pre-shattered, the drugged water to lure Jordan out, and the spear gun hidden under the dock to riddle her with bolts. And Casey, strangled while Alex slept, hoisted up as a decoy. Why, Alex gasped, blood filling his lungs. Sam knelt, her eyes cold, the aspiring writer revealed as a psychopath. You all left me behind in the city, laughed at my failures. This trip, my story, I planned it for months, invited you to my canvas, the lake, the slides, the isolation. No one survives the twist. She smiled, plunging the knife again. As Alex faded, he realized the cabinet wasn't Casey's. Sam had killed the real owner weeks ago, luring them here for her masterpiece, the ultimate getaway to hell.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
AI is pretty freaking
Pretty
good.
Yep.
That was a good. That was actually a really good story.
It was.
Like as a short story.
Yeah, I enjoyed it reading. Like the first time, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty
Pretty
good."
Like it's got some twists and turns.
Yep.
And what?
Not
what was-
overcomplicated.
What was her name? Riley.
Sam,
Sam,
the murderer.
The murderer.
The murderer. Yeah, Sam. She was the barista, the burned out barista.
I'm thinking. I know what you did last summerish.
Yeah, or psycho.
Not psycho necessarily. But I know what you did last summer.
The one you don't expect to do it is
teens,
Psycho.
20s, something going to the lake. Of course, Friday the 13th, but that's
Yeah, but they're a little
that's
older
summer
because
camp.
they're all professionals.
That's what I'm getting at. That's I know what you did last summer kind of thing, right? Well, they just
They
came
were
out
graduated
with
from high school.
They just came out with a new
Well,
one.
the new one, but the original one was they were just
How
graduated.
old is Jennifer Love Hewitt now? Like 40
in her
something?
40s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
story.
So thanks. I can't take any
You
credit.
didn't have to do anything.
No,
I did it all.
You did it, and I read
I
it.
wrote
and
the
you
whole
really didn't
thing.
have to do anything either. You
I
just had to give
write
some
that little
ideas.
prompt.
Yeah.
So go out, try that out. Try it on your own, dude. I think it's kind of cool.
And if you get a good one, send it to us and we'll read it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put it on the Castro Files.
We'll put it on the Castro
We're
Files.
revamping the Castro Files. All right, so this one, my story, is a little longer.
Okay.
So we got to buckle up. All right.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
I found this on Reddit.
Okay.
And this is a Reddit story from Subruligan, 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 something like that. That's this is
Handler.
their story.
That's their handle.
So it's called the Appalachian Horror.
Okay.
Okay, so Appalachian Mountains. I was looking something. I was kind of searching for some, kind of staying the same kind of vein.
Yeah.
Right, and I came across this one. This
Okay.
one's kind of creepy.
Okay.
All right. Excuse me.
Is it fiction or nonfiction?
I don't know.
Okay. Nope,
It's
that's
a
perfect.
story that's just told by this person.
Yeah, that works.
So I can't really tell you that. But it's a little longer. All right. I grew up in southern Appalachia in western North Carolina, 30 minutes outside of the town of Asheville. We were just near there. The hills and hollers of the Appalachian Mountains are some of the oldest mountains in the world, with some of the rock formations dating back over 1 billion years. That quite literally means that they were here before terrestrial animals. As with most things that have been on Earth as a long time, there are inexplicable
Anomalies?
good Lord, anomalies, both benevolent and malevolent.
Yes.
So good and bad. For example, the Brown Mountain Lights. Never in my life have I ever felt threatened or uneasy when witnessing them from Wiseman's view. They're neither good nor evil. They just are. On the benevolent side, sometimes when you walk through an abandoned old church up near mom and dad's house, you feel good, warm and happy. Energy's good. It's like the first warm day of a summer when the sunshine's not too hot, but it's not too cold.
Okay.
Well, this story is not about one such anomaly.
Uh-oh.
It's about something that was definitely malevolent.
Uh-oh.
About a decade ago, I was in night school up at AB Tech, going to school for automotive mechanics. I would go into class about 2 o'clock p.m. after I got off my part-time job, and I would end up getting home about 10:30 p.m., depending on traffic. Every night I drove the same road in my old 1973 W200 Dodge pickup. Some nights it would get rather boring, so I would take a different route. Jump off I-40, drive the back route.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun.
On this particular evening, I decided to just stay on I-40 just because I wanted to get home, wanted to go to bed. It was Thursday, and there was no class on Friday, so I wanted to get home, get to bed early, so I could go out to the woods and go hiking early in the morning and watch the sun come up. As I jumped off I-40 onto the exit where my parents lived, the night seemed to get darker, and none of the animals that I could hear through my rolled-down windows made any noise. The cab of my truck became smaller and smaller, and my breathing quickened. I've never faced any kind of anxiety in my life, but at that moment, something felt off, and there was no way I could put my finger on what was happening. I came to the stop at the end of the exit ramp. Turned to go down the road, and I happened to notice at the gas station off the exit where Mom and Dad lived had no lights on. They were a 24-hour truck stop and always had the lights on, but I didn't think anything about it after noticing it. I just chalked it up to maybe the power being out, but could not shake that feeling that something was definitely askew. I slowly shifted through all of my old truck's gears, not wanting to make any more noise than the old pickup already did. I leaned over my steering wheel to look up at the moon through the windshield, and there were barely any stars visible, which was kind of out of the ordinary. Excuse me. If you've ever been to Appalachia, primarily the sparsely populated areas where I'm from, you can see the Milky Way on a clear night. An absence of stars back home is only due to cloud cover or whatever the hell went on this particular night. As I rounded a particularly sharp curve and chugged through a straight stretch before the next right-hander, I looked at an ancient, decaying barn I always gazed at when I was riding that stretch of road, and thought about how long that thing had been there and how many advancements and civilizations it had seen. For a split second, my gaze, wandered. For the split second that my gaze wandered, a very large, sickly-looking dog ran out in front of my truck, no more than 10 feet in front of me. Old Betsy was a good truck, but she didn't stop well. Thump, thump.
Oh, no.
I heard the fence post I had left in my truck bounce out of my bed and back into my bed as I slid to a stop. Like, doo-doom.
Yeah.
My first thought was, oh, God, now I have to go tell these neighbors that I ran over their dog. That shit doesn't go real far out here with people around here. It can really just kind of get them off set them off depending on the dog and the person. As I sat there breathing in the smell of burning rubber, something else found its way into my nose, the stench of rotting flesh. It's not a smell you ever forget once you smell it that one time. I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. I just chalked it up to something rotting, maybe roadkill. Finally, I thought to myself, let me go check and see who this dog belongs to. I pushed my clutch in, shifted to reverse, and as I looked in my rearview mirror, illuminated by the haunting glow of my reverse lights, was the same dog. Only it wasn't on 4 legs. It had stood up like a man well over 10 feet tall. Only then did it dawn on me that the front of my truck was every bit 5 feet tall and that this dog was every bit 5 feet at the shoulder on all fours. As I As it turned its head to look in the direction of my truck, I caught only a glimpse of this creature. It was not a dog. It was not a man. It was something in between, and at the same time, entirely
Dog man.
separate altogether. Its skin hung loose off its body. It's emaciated and thin frame, like a raccoon. Bits of matted fur and dirt and mud clung to its legs like a disease. The right arm seemed a little bit longer than the left, and they both hung abnormally low. In relation to either animal, this creature seemed to be weird. I'd be freaked out if
I was like, I would have
Right.
driven off.
Excuse me. There were no eyes, but only sockets. There were where the eyes should have been.
Hell no.
No hair, and the skin that was dripping off its face was cold, lifeless, and gray color. The nose was short and shoved into its face like a bulldog, but with teeth. The teeth still haunt me. It was definitely carnivorous, and and true to form of the rest of its unnatural look. Many of the teeth didn't seem to be arranged in a natural form in its mouth. They seemed to fill it and spill forth out of its indefinable face, almost like they knew the horror they occupied and they were searching for a way out.
Yikes.
It stared through my life into my eyes and past my soul. It seemed like an eternity, but it could not have been more than 5 seconds that I sat there, paralyzed.
Excuse me.
A light came on at the house next to the road, causing the creature to snap its gaze in the direction and tear off into the woods on its back 2 legs, just running like a man. I jammed my old truck into first gear and tore on out of there, snatched second gear and drove as fast as I could home. When I got home, both of my parents were asleep. I went downstairs into my bedroom and loaded every firearm I possessed
Very smart.
and locked all the doors. I couldn't wake them up. Who the fuck would believe that at 10:30 on a Thursday night this happened? Right?
If you ain't seen it, you ain't believing it.
Right? At about 3 a.m., I started to finally get drowsy, and I went to lay my head down and get some sleep so I could still attempt to go hiking. I smelled that stench of death again.
Oh no. Oh no.
It was
Oh,
faint
no.
at first, but it was definitely there. I thought to myself, you're just going crazy. None of that shit was real. But as I dwelt on it, it became more and more noticeable until it filled the entire basement. My dad has a home office in the basement with 2 large glass doors and I can't say this, that face, I think it's Pisaga National Forest, an impenetrable 500,000 acre woods. I finally worked up the courage to walk out of my bedroom and into my basement living room with my little tactical 12-gauge shotgun. Loaded, tack light on. I covered the flashlight with my hand as to not make my presence known until I needed to, rather. Out of the living room into my father's office, I shined the light through the glass door, and at the edge of the woods, there stood the creature. The dogs went crazy. Mom and Dad woke up. Sorry, I went by past the paragraph. It was motionless. It stood and stared right into the light, unafraid, with those soulless sockets, devoid of eyes. I quickly covered my tactical light, ran in the living room, flipped on the outdoor floodlights. Into my surprise, it was no longer standing at the edge of the woods, but between the house and the edge of the woods, still motionless. It had covered half the distance. I swung the door open and fired every round I had in its direction. I must have scored a couple of hits because it screeched an unearthly scream, like that of a woman being slaughtered,
Yikes.
as it took off running into the woods. Dogs went crazy. Mom and Dad woke up, asked me what the hell I was doing. I told them that a bear had gotten into the trash and I was scaring it away. They didn't believe me, but I knew they wouldn't believe the truth either. I didn't sleep that night or any time until the following Sunday. Everything seemed to return to normal, and I didn't think anything about the creature until I met my wife 6 years later. Her mother's house sits at the mouth of a holler, no more than 4 or 5 miles up the road from my mother and father's. Up on the side of the holler, there are kennels for her brother's hunting dogs, no longer in use, and haven't been used in years. But the fence is still there and the concrete pad is still there. It's a thing of great use when you need to quarantine an animal. Her Great Pyrenees had gotten into a tussle with a raccoon, which, of course, he destroyed the raccoon, not the dog. But his rabies vaccination had lapsed, so they had to quarantine him for a time. It didn't bother him. He kind of liked solitude. That particular night, we were coming home from the movie. Sorry, let me restate that sentence. Let me turn this off too. This particular night that we were coming home from a movie date in a neighboring town was the last night of quarantine for him. So we walked up the trail using our phone flashlights to get to the kennel. And there he sat, patiently waiting, tail wagging, happy to see us. We put him on a leash and started walking back to the house with him. As we were walking back through the darkness, I started to feel the same feeling I had felt the night I hit the creature with my truck. I didn't say anything, so as not to alarm my wife, but the same smell came wafting in on a breeze. She jokingly asked me, "My God, what did you eat? You stink." I half-assed laughed, not able to fully appreciate the joke for the horrors that raged in my mind. She immediately caught on and asked me what's wrong, to which I could only reply, "I'll tell you later." She grew up in the woods and around hunting and things of that nature her whole life, so she knew what I meant. She knew we were being watched by something. When we could see the lights of the house from the trail to the kennel, we heard it. There came barking from the kennel that sounded just like the Great Pyrenees we had on leash next to us. It was a perfect imitation.
Yikes!
The Pyrenees, being a guardian dog, immediately sensed that something was wrong, and so he turned to face the danger, belting out deep barks and growls in that direction. I don't know if you've ever had to drag a 150-pound dog, but it sucks, and it's no easy task.
They're big.
I'm 6 feet
big
tall
dogs.
and 240 pounds, and it was all I could do to get him back to the house. The barking never ceased the entire time we were running towards the house. In fact, it seemed to grow closer and closer until it seemed it was coming from inside my own head. Her mother heard the commotion and flipped on the floodlights as we made it into the fence of the yard, and I caught a glimpse of something coming to the dead stop at the end of where the light had reached. Wheeling around and tearing off back into the darkness, my wife looks at me and goes, "You want me to tell me what the fuck that was?" To which I replied, "Let's go inside."
Smart.
Yeah.
Let's get in there and we'll talk about it.
I told her the story as she listened intently, hanging on to every word. Her family came from a long line of granny witches.
Oh,
New term, which I hadn't heard of.
I had not heard that.
Granny witches and other supernatural healers of the Appalachians. So that's a check to do a little research on.
Yep.
So her older sister came over the next morning, some herbs and chants to bless the property and ward off evil. I suggested we go up to the dog kennels and do them as well. When we got to the kennels, they were completely destroyed.
Oh.
The very concrete foundation was cracked, and the chain link fence was torn off its posts. The
Wow.
dog houses were destroyed, and the place reeked and stenched of that followed that creature. My wife's older sister just went about her business like normal, blessed the place, burnt some herbs, and led us back into the property. When we got to the house, she wheeled about on us suddenly and instructed us very firmly to never go into the woods after dark, not until this thing is gone. To make a long story short...
I hope they listen.
Yeah. To make a long story short, kind of a long story.
To make a long story long?
Yeah. My wife joined the military and ended up getting stationed in Delaware. Well, as someone who's lived around fairly large mountains and endless wilderness their entire life, Delaware is pretty terrible.
I could see that.
At least that was my thought when we first moved to the middle of a 50,000 plus population city.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
They're used to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Fortunately, though, it didn't take long for us to find a house in a sleepy little community further south. We purchased the house and moved in with a haste. We were both very grateful and glad to be out of the city and into a rural setting. The land in Delaware seemed lifeless in comparison to Appalachia. The sparsely populated woods don't possess any energy that goes on one way or another. The ground doesn't seem to be alive like it is in Appalachia. Having no thought about the creature in a long time, I resumed my staying outside after dark and playing with our dogs in a rather large yard with that border a small patch of woods. Well, last night,
Oh, no.
I went outside to play with my dogs. As it got dark, and as dark sat in, I built a decent-sized fire in my pit and consumed some good old-fashioned Appalachian cough syrup from a mason jar. And just as the fire was dying down, my American bulldog tore off into the woods. Oh, no. He has a habit of running off and going on adventures. So my immediate instinct was to chase after him, chase him down in the yard, and tackle him so I couldn't get away. As I tackled his 110-pound ass to the ground and threw him in a fireman's carry over my shoulder, I heard him begin to bark. Only the bark was not coming from him.
Oh, no.
The only sound coming from him was a deep, rumbling growl, a noise I've never heard him make. It was threatening. It was a threatening noise. Something was definitely wrong as I ran with him on my shoulder back to the house. The stench of death again began to fill the air. The two dogs must have caught wind of what was happening and met at the back door, which I threw open, slammed shut, locked, and again loaded all of my firearms. How the hell could this thing have followed me 650 miles up here?
Yeah.
I flipped on my
got
floodlights
its scent.
at the back of my side of my house. Several of my bushes and small trees at the forest edge were still shaking like something had just run through them. My dogs went crazy, barking and howling and attempting to get out the windows. I didn't sleep a bit. I didn't think I would for a while. I know for sure I won't be in the woods after dark ever again in my life. Not until this thing is gone.
Wow, it's like it got his scent and just can't let him go because it's mad he ran it over, even though he ran in the road.
So
is it like a werewolf? A
Is
chupacabra?
So in the, like, I've got the thing here. Somebody was like, is it a skinwalker?
Maybe.
Is it a skinwalker? Is it some other
Type of creature.
animal? Skinwalker kind of sounds about right to me.
That or, yeah, because the hanging skin and the scent and.
Like the whole thing that goes with those.
Yeah, the mimicking.
But
and,
Appalachia, normally we've heard stories about skinwalkers being like Indian, you know what I mean? Native American, but Native American kind of lore.
Right.
I don't know about Appalachia. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's
enough,
Indians, Native Americans there, but I don't know it's an interesting
crazy.
one. So, what'd you think?
It's a good story. I there's a part of me that's like, oh, that's got to be real, but it's really good, whether it's real or not.
So I don't know. This is just a Reddit.
And nobody asked, is this a real? Or is this, did you write this?
So Subruligan. Good story. I'll tag it in the notes. All right, that's it for right now. That's it for tonight. Thank you for coming back to the Castro Files.
We're excited.
Those. I gotta get my talking mouth back on.
Yeah. See, I've gotten a little bit better at it because of Beth's Naughty Reads.
Yeah. So with that, we will catch you guys next time.
Have a great week, you
Happy
guys.
Halloween.
Happy
month.
Halloween. Boo.
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 Spooky, scary stories. Cheers.
Love you guys.
Yeah.